Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Ford today. Guys, we're taking a look today at the Columbus Blue Jackets as we continue our season preview series as we go over all 32 NHL teams heading into the 2021-2022 NHL season. So let's get right into it. So the Columbus Blue Jackets, they definitely had a pretty interesting offseason, and the notable guy that left in terms of subtractions was Seth Jones. Seth Jones was traded to the Chicago Blackhawks a year of his pending unrestricted free agency. At the end of the season, he had told the Blue Jackets and Jarmo Kekalainen that he would not be going to the Blue Jackets long term and that he wanted to test free agency next summer. Well, that didn't end up being the case. But Stan Bowman and the Blackhawks got his brother, Caleb Jones. They bring in Seth Jones, and that's all said and done. And a bit of a shakeup to the core in Columbus. Now, I don't know if the Blue Jackets are done. They have Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo. Now, obviously, everything that happened with Matisse Kivlenieks, rest his soul, but that may have changed the plans for the Blue Jackets in terms of, you know what? We weren't able to bring in another goalie. And I don't know who's behind the one guy we're going to keep. So we may just keep both and just run this thing again. And that kind of seems like the mindset for the Blue Jackets. They did move on from Cam Atkinson. Cam Atkinson was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers for Jakub Voracek, which when I get to the additions, we will get into Jakub Voracek. So Cam Atkinson and Seth Jones were really the key departures from Columbus since last season. And then they made some moves at the deadline, obviously losing a guy like David Savard, which was a huge piece of this team for a very long time. But now going into the guys that they added, they obviously made some interesting moves. Jarmo Kekalainen wanted to add more depth to the core, and they definitely did that, bringing in Sean Kuraly from the Boston Bruins, a good bottom six center, a culture guy, a little bit of an agitator, a good defensive forward, a good forechecker, back checker. And that's kind of what the Blue Jackets are going to want to round out their center depth. A really nice addition there. They also brought in Yegor Chenikov from Europe. One of the couple of guys that they brought in from Europe, which I'm going to get to. But that was a good move, honestly, for them. Because the thing about this guy is you're looking at a guy that's just going to add more scoring depth. And that's really what you're getting in Chenikov, a guy that they had drafted. Greg Hoffman, another guy they had drafted, signing him to the ELCs. Jakub Voracek, who I mentioned they got from a trade. They also bring in Jake Bean, a former first-round pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. Wasn't selected to the Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft, so the Carolina Hurricanes traded him to the Blue Jackets for a second-round pick. He was a first-round pick. Okay. But anyway, I don't think Jarmo Kekalainen and the Blue Jackets will complain. A good top-four defenseman on the left side. And they also bring in Adam Bulkfist, who is really a huge part of that trade with Seth Jones. They bring in Adam Bulkfist, their 11th selection in the draft, which ended up being Cole Sillinger, who Mike Sillinger played in the NHL, so his son playing now getting drafted by the Blue Jackets, so pretty cool stuff there. And they also acquired some other assets in terms of draft picks in this deal. So a pretty massive trade there. Where they moved Seth Jones, and they got a pretty nice haul for him. So that was really the key stuff that happened this offseason. They also re-signed Zach Werenski, so he will be sticking around in Columbus for the foreseeable future, which is good stuff there, and just, keeps a little stability in Columbus, because when you move Seth Jones because he doesn't want to play there, you've lost Patrick Laine over the last couple years, Pierre-Luc Dubois. Actually, they do have Laine still. Scratch that part. They move on from Dubois last year. A lot of guys have been leaving Columbus, and it was important to keep Zach Werenski. They did keep him at a very high cap hit, making more than Seth Jones, which I don't think was by accident. But yeah, that's pretty much the situation. Now you look at their cap space. They have $10.4 million left in cap space. They have their first-round pick next year. They also have the Blackhawks first-round pick next year. So they've got some draft picks over the next couple years. They don't have a lot of draft picks of their own in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds next year, but they have Toronto and Anaheim, so it kind of evens out anyway. just depth signings from the Blue Jackets. And that's really what this offseason was about for Columbus. They brought in Yegor Chenikov, who I mentioned. They also brought in this other guy. I'm trying to find him, but I don't see him on here. Some guy they signed from Europe. I don't see him on here. Stanislav Sozil. I think that's how you say it. But he is also under contract. He was one of the newer guys in the organization in Columbus. You look at their lineup, and definitely a lot different than the beginning of last season. Because remember, at the beginning of last year, they still had Dubois. They had Seth Jones. They had Nick Foligno. I mean, just a total culture shock to this group. Now, you look at their top line. It's Patrick Laine, Jack Rosavik, and Oliver Bjorkstrand. Second line, you got Nyquist, Domi, and Voracek. A very, very interesting second line. Boone Jenner, Alex Texier, who may overtake Domi on that second line, and Liam Foudy. You got Eric Robinson, Sean Corrali, and Emil Benstrom to round out the bottom six. Zach Werenski and Adam Bulkfist is the new top pair in Columbus. I think Bulkfist could really benefit from playing with Zach Werenski. But this is really a test for Zach Werenski. How good can he be without Seth Jones there? That's really the big question going into this season for Zach Werenski on the back end. Vladislav Gavrikov and Andrew Peeke come back. And then they bring in Jake Bean, who they acquired from Carolina, and Dean Kukin to round out the third pair. And then you keep in between the pipes, looks practically the same. You have Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo. There's going to be a little bit of a transition in Columbus this season. And for me to say, in terms of them making the playoffs, I think it's very unlikely, especially with this Metropolitan Division, the way it's stacked up. You have the two New York teams, the Islanders and the Rangers. You have the two Pennsylvania teams, the Penguins and the Flyers. The Capitals, they're still in the mix. Oh, yeah, Carolina's back in this division. That's 6 right there. Oh, yeah, New Jersey, they got a lot better. They had Dougie Hamilton, Tomas Tatar, Jonathan Bernier. I mean, this is a pretty good team. And they added Luke Hughes, who probably will play in Michigan next year. But still, they've got a lot more talent there. So I just really, it's hard for me to say that the Blue Jackets are better than any of those teams in their division. And the problem is, too, when you look at their center depth, when you have a guy like Max Domi on your power play unit, according to Daily Faceoff, and on your second line, a guy that they don't want there and a guy that doesn't want to be there, it shows a little bit of that lack of depth. With Dubois out, they're going to rely a lot more on a guy like Alex Texier. And you're putting a lot of pressure on a youngster to get going. Jack Rosavik is now the first-line center. I don't know where I'm at with that. I mean, you look at the rest of the division, Jack Rosavik is a third-line center at best. And he's your number one center. So I just don't know where the Blue Jackets are going to find themselves in a playoff spot. I mean, they have a good goaltending group. I love Korpisalo and Merzlikins. They're a starting goaltender in pretty much any city in the NHL. But besides that, I really don't know. And I think their defense, again, the top pair is good. Bulkfist and Werenski. But now you're talking about guys like Gavrikov, who did have a good season last year, but again, development, Peeke, Bean. I think Bean is a good defenseman there. But then you got guys, like I said, like Peeke and Kukin. I really don't know where those guys stand. I don't think this is the caliber defense that they're going to need to be back in the Metropolitan Division. I have them missing the playoffs with pretty much 90-95% confidence. If their goaltending, if they ride on their goaltending and their offense just lights it up and everything works out, great. But I just don't see that. They lose a character guy in Cam Atkinson. I just think this is a very different team. And it's hard for me to say with confidence that they are going to make that next step this year. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of the Columbus Blue Jackets moves this offseason? They were one of the more busier teams this offseason. They acquired two top 11 draft picks. They moved out Seth Jones. They bring back Zach Werenski on a massive contract. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. And if you guys like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL and more videos just like this one, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up. and an even bigger subscribe down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys next time.